So, dealing with anger. Phew, big topic. Yesterday I was going to make this video. Actually, yesterday I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I got some news first thing in the morning. First tip, if at all possible, do not check your messages, whatever. First thing in the morning, get that exercise and meditation in, and then you'll be a little better equipped to deal with it. But know that anger is natural. It is part of our natural psychology and physiology. It's part of that sort of fight or flight response that we have. And anger has roots in a lot of different things. One thing that I've heard a lot, and I find it to be true, is anger can be fear announced. So that thing makes us angry because it also instantly, before we feel that anger, there's a touch of fear, okay, which again triggers that fight or flight response that we have. So anger has a lot of physiological effects. And if you're wondering where I'm looking, I've got a outline that I wrote so we can be brief and to the point. Anger has a lot of physiological effects. I'll put up an infographic. Let's see, you've got your stress hormones that it releases: cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. Cortisol can decrease serotonin levels, and that's that happy chemical that we all love. And that can actually lead to further depression and anger. Cortisol can actually cause loss of neurons in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Now, those two regions are really interesting parts of our brain. The prefrontal cortex, loss of neurons there can actually affect your decision-making processes. So you think about all those times that you got really upset and you did something stupid. That's because you're sort of shutting down that part of your brain. And we don't want to shut down our decision-making, right? And then loss of neurons in the hippocampus can actually create short-term memory loss. So if you can think of a time that you got really upset, you got into an argument with somebody, and you can't remember anything you said or did, maybe, that's kind of what that is. Or you have one of those whiteout moments where you get so angry that just all of a sudden, that's that combination of decision making and short-term memory being super affected. You know, you come back to and you've broken something, or, you know, we've all been there. So other effects that these stress hormones can do, and we're talking about adrenaline and noradrenaline at this point, coupled with the cortisol, can increase your heart rate. So if you have any sort of heart defects or issues with your heart, that can be stressful on it. It can increase your blood pressure, arterial tension. That's one that can actually lead to strokes. It can raise your blood glucose level, because basically what your body's trying to do is just get ready to just fight something, run from something, do whatever it is that your body, the lizard brain, this part back here at the base of our skull, wants to take over and do. It can raise your blood fatty acids, which again can lead toward those strokes and heart issues, because those blood fatty acids can then start leading to susceptibility to plaque on your arterial walls. And these symptoms, when they're chronic, They can lead to stroke, heart attack. So anger is natural, but too much of a natural thing can still be a very bad thing, okay? You know, arsenic is natural. You don't want a lot of it, okay? Preferably none. It can suppress your immune system. It lowers your thyroid function, lowers your number of killer white blood cells that help fight off infection. And then those two things work together to actually increase the number of viral load in your body, your virus-infected cells, because you've basically got less of those soldiers in your body running around making sure everything's all right. You actually can raise your susceptibility to cancer, which that part blew me away. So there's a lot of health benefits to just, you know, getting out of that angry space. You know, it's okay to feel angry, but it's not good for you to sit with that anger for long, extended periods of time. You can actually impact your vision when you're angry. I'm sure we've all had the experience of seeing red, because what's happening is with those hormones being released, your blood pressure starts increasing, and it actually increases pressure on your intraocular, like basically the pressure in your eyeballs. So it affects your vision, and it can actually decrease your bone density, which is another really fascinating thing. Basically what's happening is the combination of that cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline work together. Your cells start releasing calcium, because again, you're going into that fight or flight. And of course, as we know, calcium is one of the foundations of healthy, strong bones. So you can weaken your bones. So how do we deal with this? Well, there's a lot of ways. You can, I'm going to run down my list here. One of the quickest, most effective ways are actually breathing techniques. And you can just simply take a deep breath and then just, you just kind of let that happen. There's one called a fire breath, which is interesting. Basically, you kind of do a few short pants, and then you start breathing in slowly through your nose and then slowly out through your mouth. That one actually is really good to do right before an exercise as well, because something about it just makes your body want to go, yeah, let's do this, but in more of a positive way. I like to do a square breath, and what that is a, let's say 4 counts. It's really arbitrary. You could do 20 counts if you count fast, or you can hold your breath long enough. Doesn't really matter. But you do, X amount of counts in. So in let's say 4. So 4 counts in, and you start here at your diaphragm. You're actually kind of breathing in. You feel your belly expand first, and then it'll sort of roll up, and you're going to hold that for that 4 counts, and then you breathe out as hard as you can, or as far as you can, and then hold that for 4 counts, and do a couple of those. What happens is that you're sort of overcoming that fight or flight response, that instinct that we all have when faced with something that makes us afraid or angry. It has almost instantaneous impact on your blood pH, blood pressure, your pulse. intraocular pressure. You learn a new word today. Inside of your eyeball, basically. And it starts retraining your body and your sympathetic nervous system to sort of take a different approach. And there are times where that fight or flight is a good thing if used properly. You know, if you need to run and it's a situation, you know, maybe chilling is not the best thing, or, you know, there are situations where that fight or flight, it has evolved to protect us, and it is there for a reason. Our job is to just make sure it triggers when it's supposed to. So rapid breathing is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, which means basically all of this input that we have. I believe I did some research for an article, and it's something like we receive basically a fairly lengthy novel worth of information every single second. And our brain has to work to filter that down. And what happens is we'll have one stimulus that all of a sudden takes precedent. So your brain hyper focuses on that thing, starts excluding everything else. That part can trigger your sympathetic nervous system, and we'll start finding ourselves in that anger, in that fight or flight, in that situation where your heart rate's going up, your pulse is going, your blood pressure, all of these factors are affecting your body. It can sort of switch off that fight or flight. So that's where that sort of dragon breath or fire breath can be really handy, because you basically you're hacking that system, because what your body wants to do is breathe rapidly, and you take that and take control of it, and then turn it into those slow, deep breaths to release, you know, that sort of stress. I guess this is the official release stress gesture here. And think about, you know, you have all this stuff going. You got this cortisol being released, the noradrenaline, the adrenaline, which in turn tells your body, holy, it's go time. And then so your breath starts increasing, your pulse starts increasing, blood pressure, your body is geared up for action. And what that can do is it's like having an out of control train, because that's what happens. That chemical reaction starts putting in all the physiological reactions, and then next thing you know, you're in a train going 120 miles down an hour down the track, and you got to put the brakes on there. And that deep breathing can just, you know, shut the engine off and put the brakes on, you know, which lets us get back control of that prefrontal cortex and our hippocampus. We want to be able to make good decisions, and we want to be able to, you know, remember what we're doing. So, meditation. That's another thing that sort of couples in with your deep breathing. I like to do a lot of more of deep breathing exercises. It gives me something real easy to just latch onto. You'll notice like, oh, I'm not paying attention to my breath. You know, it gives you something to go back to, makes meditation easier. Here's a simple, I don't know, they changed where you can do things on here. So, but I'll link that. A simple, just 8-minute meditation. I actually did my own video this morning just to see, does it work? And I really, honestly, I was surprised. You know, part of that goes back, and we'll talk about self-confidence and stuff. You know, I might look it, but I don't always feel super self-confident. But so that couples in with that deep breathing, and then you're able to get your mind out of that headspace of anger focus it towards something, or maybe even take that anger and shrink it down to the size it might really be, or even just be able to push it back a little bit and be able to take a better look at it and go, okay, what can I do with this? There's research suggesting that meditation coupled with breathing exercise can actually change your gene expression, meaning you'll make yourself literally less likely to get those genetic cancers or those genetic heart defects, or possibility of stroke, or even up to Alzheimer's, because again, that those hormones are affecting memory centers and decision-making centers. So you can also express that anger in a positive way. If it's one of those kind of angers that you just feel like you got to get it out, run, take a run, ride a bike, work a heavy bag if you like boxing and kickboxing, that kind of thing, or you're a martial artist. Just basic exercise. If you have access to heavy weights, put everything you got into it. So then you go back to that first thing, one of those first things that we talked about in the depression series, where we can take control of our own, mental space and our own sort of emotional state. And then, one thing that I didn't write down that I just was thinking about yesterday, especially now, especially in 2020 with, all of this crazy stuff going on, find something, one small thing that will help you maybe take a positive step forward in action. Write a letter to your representative, or to your whoever it is that you think might have an impact on whatever situation it is that might be making you angry. Or if it's, so many different reasons to be angry, so just try to do something positive to impact that, and then just, do all of those things. Do something, useful toward that anger situation. Work out. Do some breathing exercises. You could do all of this at the same time, just about. We'll talk about the meditation of doing in an upcoming video. That's one that helped me get through yesterday. I was beside myself with anger. And that expression's funny. Beside yourself with anger. That is coming from a recognition of all of those symptoms where you can't remember what you did, you can't make the decisions, you feel like you're taken over by somebody or something else. You are beside yourself with anger. So if we can take control of that anger, we can make positive impacts on our own mental health and physical health, as hopefully we've shown today. So get out there, do your best. That's all you can do. And take one day at a time, take one moment at a time, and just be you. Be your true self, and really, you got this. You've got this. It's okay to be angry. It's just not healthy to sit in that anger for too long. All right? I love you guys. I'm Chad Rushing. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button if that helped you out. Leave me a comment below, actually. What do you do to work through anger? And, if I like what you're doing, I'll try it myself. And then we can, do a video on that maybe. So I'll see you next time. I'm Chad Rushing. Have a wonderful day.